So you probably have already known this if you're in my training or if you're watching the replay, right? Federal market is a great place to grow as a small business. And today, just for putting it on the board here, is the 13th of June. So we are live, just in case anybody's ever curious. We're live every day at noon. But the federal market's a great place to grow a small business. I love it. It is no harder than growing in any other market, the state or local governments or nonprofit or commercial. Everything is hard work and everything just takes time to have success. But the federal market is no harder. And I would argue that it's easier than other markets. I'm not going to argue that today. I do that in a lot of other trainings. You can watch the replay. But today I'm going to be talking about how to get started, right? And so this is going to be really helpful for those of you just coming into the GovCon space. But it's really going to be coming, and those of you already here and just getting started, but it's also going to be helpful tips for some of you who are already in here. So hopefully you'll find values in there, because the tips that I like to give when I'm giving training always go back to the basics. If we do the basics correctly, we will have the success that we want. Today, just level setting is not going to be an all-inclusive course. I plan to release a free course at some point that's exactly how do you get started and get going to your first 100,000 or so in federal revenue. I want that to be a free onboarding course coming from a guy who does sales and who spent a long time as a government contractor. And it's the type of thing you should be seeing from the SBA as well, but that's not today. Today is designed to really just talk about three main things, and you'll see this in a second, about getting started and pushing forward towards success. The one thing I did want to say, the last thing here, is that I am assuming that you've already asked yourself the tougher question of, should I be in business at all? Should my company be in business at all? Or are we just kind of winging it and we're not really there? And so I'm making the assumption you've already had that question. You already know that you're committed to success as a small business or part of a small business. And here we're just talking about the federal market and how to drive forward on that. And so in today's training, we're going to talk about some of the steps to get started in the federal market and have success. So how to start and grow the GovCon small business in 2024. Yesterday I did on acronyms, and so I will make sure everybody knows GovCon means government contractor. It just means you're selling to the federal government. And so I'm going to cover down in today's training in three ways. I want to sit there and say, should I be a government contractor? And I want to give you things you should be thinking about. In here is also tips for companies that exist already and go, wow, have I asked myself these questions? Have I done these things? The second thing I'm going to talk about is, can I be a successful government contractor? A lot of us just get into something and we don't find out whether we could be a famous basketball player, professional basketball player or professional business owner. And so I want you to be able to ask yourself, can I be successful in here? And I'm going to talk about what you should ask in order to get the answer to that question. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about are, I'm going to give you 5 steps to getting started. And really, this is a broad way of looking, how do you get in the government contracting space and start heading to money? Again, it's not all inclusive, but these steps will be really helpful as you move forward. And you can watch on the left side as I go down through today's training. If you don't know who I am, my name is 𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗏. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. Process goes A to Z, and when you follow a process, you'll have repeatable, predictable results, and that's what I want for you. If you haven't done so already, make sure you sign up for our Government Contracting Success newsletter. This newsletter is where we drop a lot of value. You can see we've got like 16,000 plus people in there. It is the largest newsletter there because we just put stuff that is valuable to your growth. An example is I shared out information today related to innovation within DoD. If that's your type of business, you want to be tracking on that. And the last thing I just want to say is thank you to the people who registered for training. Over 150 people registered for training today, which is kind of a lot for the topic, and it surprised me a little bit. But that's great, because when you do, 2 major things happen in addition to you saying thank you to us, right? Is first, LinkedIn lets other people know, hey, there's this training. You might be interested in it because Jane or John is going to it. So first, when you do that, you're letting other people know. The second thing is when you register, if you don't know this, and Cecilia or Gus, if you could help me do this next week, like teach training on this. But if you don't know this, when you register, you can go in and look at all the other attendees and see the people you're not connected with and connect with them. And LinkedIn removes limitations for connections there. And you can reach out and say, hey, I was in the training with Neil and you. I'd love to connect if you're open to it. Don't connect with every single person, but look and see if there's a match, right? So registering for training allows you to be able to connect with a lot more people, and to grow your network. Okay, so let's start with, should I be a government contractor? And should I be a government contractor is a future question or a current one. It's like, hey, am I asking myself this? And the first thing you got to think about, if you haven't even become a federal government contractor yet, you got to ask yourself this. And if you are one, stop for a second and ask yourself this question. Do I have a clear, focused offer? You know how you know if you have a clear, focused offer? You can put it into the chat in today's training, and it says, we do this to help these people, right? It doesn't say a bunch of keywords, but it says, we do this. And so having a clear, focused offer makes it easy for the people who want to help you, whether it's buyers who are buying from you or teammates who are going to work with you to drive towards success. It makes it easy for all of us because we go, oh, that person does indoor painting, or that person does outdoor painting, or that person does roofing, or that person does zero trust cybersecurity. It's very specific, or risk management framework, right? This idea of coming down. If you say you're doing everything, that's not focused. Even if I say, what do you do? And you go, cybersecurity. To me, I instantly say, well, that's not focused. I'm sure you can tighten that down more, because there's multiple types of cybersecurity. There's information assurance, which is cybersecurity around like software applications, making sure they're secure. There are pretending like we're China and other adversaries and trying to attack our network. There's that type of cybersecurity expert. There's the type of cybersecurity that does go out to our adversaries, right? So there's all this stuff that could just be in cyberspace and cybersecurity. You want to focus that down even more. That way, when people are looking at you, they don't go, "Wow, cybersecurity, that's everything," right? Clothing, that's everything. But when you say I do t-shirt design, that's very specific, and people can understand that. So make sure you have that clear, focused offer. For me, when I started my first company, so I've had 2 government contracting companies, successful businesses since I got out of the Army. And the first one, when I came out, it was network engineering. And more specifically, when I was doing it, and by the way, I did do everything, but what my clear, focused offer was, we do Novell engineering. So back then, Novell was this thing. And you could think about like Amazon Cloud or Microsoft Cloud or Google Cloud today. Well, Novell was that well known when I started my first business. And so we said we did Novell network engineering, and it was a very specific thing. People said, "Oh, we don't have that. We have Microsoft." Or they said, "We have that. Talk to me more." And that focused offer made it easy for me to go forward. My second business was all a Microsoft play, and so we did all this extra software development and Microsoft blah blah blah. But our clear, focused offer was, we sell Microsoft SharePoint services. This is very specific. And when I went down to explain what that is, I would then use 3 main keywords, which you can watch other training to find out what those are. But you should have something like that. We do network engineering. We do, or especially if you do cloud support, we do AWS cloud support. If you say you do everything, we begin to doubt that you can do Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Oracle cloud. We're like, come on. That's like saying I do literally everything. So pick one, and that's a clear, focused offer. This is especially important if you're under $10 million a year. Okay, the second thing on should I be a government contractor, second question you want to ask yourself is, do federal agencies buy what I sell? And do they buy it where I sell? So for me, when I was doing network engineering, SharePoint, the second question didn't matter because I could service the entire federal government. In fact, I had one limitation. I supported CONUS, not OCONUS. CONUS stands for Continental United States, which is the 48 states, and OCONUS is the rest of America and the rest of the world. I did not support outside of the CONUS area. I supported the 48 states. And so that was my one limitation on where do I sell. For you, you want to ask, do they buy what I sell? Somebody literally just sent me a LinkedIn message, or I think it was on LinkedIn, right before the start of today's training, asking about, well, how can I find out large prime contractors who are at this level in construction? Well, that was basically kind of the same question. How do I find out if large primes are winning what I sell? How do I find out if agencies are buying what I sell? And you can start with simple searches is learning tools like USA Spending and FPDS. You can go into my previous training and I talk literally about this. So you can find training that's in there. You can also go to usaspending.gov and they have training in there as well about how do I do searches, et cetera. So there's a lot of ways you can get the answer to that. I'm probably, if somebody on my team reminds me, I'm going to do that as one of the trainings again, just bringing it back next week. I'll do a fresh one on how do you find out if agencies are buying what I sell. And then the last question you want to ask yourself about being a government contractor is, can you be patient for growth? While I teach that you can go after additional money, and revenue fairly quickly within the federal space if you team up with people, while I do teach that, it requires kind of a lot from a company and a person to be able to do that. The average sales cycle in the federal market, though, is 6 to 24 months for anything that is construction or service related. The only thing that doesn't have that kind of window are product sales. And so if you think about the government wants to buy pens or computers or something, that kind of stuff turns around pretty fast. There's also not a lot of selling involved in it. But if you sell anything related to services, and t-shirts, by the way, and I'm just using t-shirts because somebody in our training today is in the chat, I noticed that, but t-shirts or IT or lawn mowing, those are all 6 to 24 month kind of things. They're looking farther out. So those are your questions you want to ask. Should I be a government contractor? Let's assume the answer is yes. The next question you should be asking yourself, by the way, if you haven't started business or a business yet, do not start a company. Don't create an LLC or any of that stuff until you do the first question I asked, right? Should I be a government contractor? Do this first, then do this next thing. And then if the answers are yes, you can create a company. So the second question I want you to ask yourself is, can I be a successful government contractor? What does it take to be a successful government contractor? I teach people that when you come into business in general, but in particular, the federal market, since that's my area of expertise, you want to go through 3 stages for your company's growth. You want to feed yourself, then you will get fed, and then you grow your company. So what I mean by this is feed yourself is you make money for your company off your own efforts. When I started my first company, I was a network engineer. When I started my second company, I was a SharePoint expert. That's how I got the idea of, hey, what are we selling? Why don't we sell what we're good at, right? So it was very easy for me and to understand what to do. And it was also very easy for me to feed myself. I tell people that feed yourself is kind of like having a job, right? And it doesn't really matter. You can figure it out. And I'll talk more about this in the bottom bullet. But the first thing you want to do is to make sure you and your family are taken care of and you're making some money for your company to pay for the internet or something, right? Feed yourself. Second thing you want to do is get fed. And what this means is hire enough people, get enough business that you can grow your company and your salary basically off the efforts of people who work for your company. That's a normal progression. The profit margin off of their efforts allows you to take home a paycheck. And then the last one is grow your company as you move forward. The second bullet, there are 3 federal revenue streams I really want you to understand in here. And these are kind of lining up to what you're looking at here. And I'm missing a major bullet. I apologize. I got to wing the last bullet, which is a really important one. Is the second thing is there are 3 federal revenue streams in the federal market. When you want to make money in the federal government, you can subcontract under small businesses. These companies still remember what it was like to be small, so it's easier, and their risk threshold is lower. Then the second way you can make money, and this is kind of the next one after you've been subbing under smalls, is you can get a prime contract with federal agencies. I usually say wait for 3 years or $3 million before you start trying to do that. Get your experience and your initial revenue subcontracting under smalls, and then you start priming with agencies who have a higher risk threshold. And then the last group is subcontracting under large businesses. When you subcontract under a large business, they have the highest risk threshold. They're risk averse. They don't want to really take any risks to their contract, to their customers. And so they're the hardest ones to actually get a piece of work with. The primes priming with an agency is easier. So these federal revenue streams, if you're just getting started, play in the small business area and really play in the space of companies that are doing 20 or 30 million and below. And then the last bullet I have here before let me just remind myself. I have a whole thing that's on my whiteboard that I forgot to put on here, but this is live. So the last thing I want to say here on this particular 3 bullets is that there's 4 ways that you can make money as a sub, or I want you to just think this, right? If you're starting a business, sometimes we jump to the most complicated and hardest situation, like a full-out subcontract or a full-out prime contract. But what I want you to think of is, if you want to work, let's just use company ABC. If you want to work with them to begin to get some federal revenue by subcontracting under them, well, you could go become an employee with them, a W-2, and that gets you clearances, experience. Maybe you start understanding the federal market, et cetera. That's not really in your own business, but you're a W-2 and you're eyeballing it, right? And so let's call that a quasi way to make money as a sub. But then you can come out of that and go right back in and say, hey, can I be a 1099 consultant? And this is where you're using your social security number. You don't even need a company at this point. You're 1099ing under your own social security number, and they don't really control you at all, except for say, here's the work we want done, get it done. And if you go in there and do that consulting work and it's tied to some federal contract they have, well, that's basically subcontracting. It's not legal definition of subcontracting, but guaranteed that's subcontracting. You're subbing under their contract. And so then as you move forward, you can have what we call corp to corp, right? But C2C. And this is where you're 1099ing with the company, but you're using your company's social security number, what is called an EIN, right? And so that EIN allows you to get in, and now you're company to company, company to company. And the final stage you want to get at, and by the way, you can jump straight to the final stage if you meet somebody that works. But the final stage is where you're doing a 1099 under your company's EIN with a written subcontracting agreement. So the government gives the prime contractor, another company, a prime contract, says, hey, we'll work with you. Here's the agreement. And then that prime contractor turns to you and says, hey, we want you to do a piece of that work, and here it is in written language. Here's the portion you're going to get. Here's how much you're going to get, et cetera. So everything to the left is a little looser, and that 1099 subcontract on the right, that's really definitive. That's the stage you want to be at. But so you can work your way towards there. Some of us can jump right into it, right? I have enough experience. I could do this. Even when I came out of the Army, I could jump right to it. But if you're newer, be okay with this journey, because if you're okay with this journey, those people you work for will mentor you. So here's the bullet I forgot to put in here is, how do you test whether you can be successful in government contracting? You need to reach out to small businesses. And I have a whole separate training on how to do this. But you want to reach out to small businesses that are in your space. And basically you're reaching out, trying to find out if you can get, and let me just turn these slides off for 1 second. You're trying to reach out to these small businesses that are already successful federal government contractors. They're doing $5 to $30 million a year in federal revenue. And you want to reach out and see a couple of things. First off, can you get in the door, right? That's a really important thing, is to find out, can I get in the door? Oh, look at that. Here I was thinking I didn't do it. I just put it on a separate slide. So you're testing the market, right? When you're trying to find out, can I be a successful government contractor? You're testing the market to see if anyone is willing to help you. I said I was a government contractor 20 years, had multiple businesses, but right before I started the GovCon chamber, I had a 5th business that lasted a month before I closed it to start this. And that 5th business was a training company type business. And it was a training in my space. But what I did right when I started it is I tested the market. Even though I was very experienced, I reached out to 50 contractors who were in kind of the same space. And I asked, hey, can we get on an intro call to talk about whether, we're a fit? I have a lot of experience, but I want to work with a company like yours over the next couple of years to become a really good subcontractor as I look out at, being a government contractor, et cetera. And you can go find the previous training, because I lay out the whole email script. And I reached out to 50 people. I got 27 or so that got back and said, sure, let's talk. And from there, I had five solid ones who were like, oh, let's work together and let's start figuring it out. It had nothing to do with my business or anything else. It had to do with my expertise, which goes back to, what is your core focused offer, your focused offer. And so the first bullet there is test the market. See if anybody's willing to help you. And the way you know that is you'll get a meeting with these small businesses. Again, in previous training, you can find much more detail on this. But the way you find these people and I could show you a quicker way in June 28th when we launch our next product, but you can look in dsbs.gov, the Dynamic Small Business Search Tool, dsbs.gov. I think it's actually dsbs.sba.gov. You can look in there and you can search, say you do lawn care. You can put that in and you'll find companies that come up and say they do lawn services or outdoor type work, construction, whatever it is. And you can reach out and see if they will have a meeting with you. The second thing you want to do is to see if you can get an agreement to join them, right? For you to have this meeting and say, hey, we're good at this. We're good at construction or cybersecurity or whatever. And you're having that conversation to see if there's an agreement to join them. Can we talk? Hey, I'm getting ready to start my company. And frankly, I wanted to make sure that I could work with a company like yours. And I just want to find out if that works, right? At that early stage, you're not looking for somebody who's going to evaluate your company in detail. You're looking for somebody who's going to talk to you about cyber, is going to talk to you about t-shirts or construction or whatever it is you sell. You're just trying to have an early conversation to say, would you be open to me working with you as a subcontractor where it makes sense? Could we have a continued conversation? And the last bullet there is, are they open to helping you grow? So one thing is about coming back, but the other is, I have a friend who was in this kind of stage, and he was working with actually one of my customers, but he was talking with the owner of that company. And when you go into DSBS, you're almost always going to find the owner of the company. They were talking to the owner of the company, and the owner was like, yeah, be happy to help you grow where we have a spot. In fact, I think we have a spot you might be able to fit in. And so you're able to get traction. The purpose of this activity of testing the market to see if any of these small businesses will work with you is, can you be successful in the government contracting space? Can you pick up the phone and schedule a meeting? Can you get in there and have a good enough meeting that leads to success? I have a ton of free training on YouTube and LinkedIn right here that guide you through, how do I prepare for a meeting? How do I get on a call? How do I have a good, successful meeting when I'm in there? So you can find training that will walk you through. And if you do this kind of activity, which will take 2 weeks, 3 weeks at most, you'll find 3 or 4 businesses and business owners that'll be like, I'm happy to sit there and help you. I remember what it was like. But you're going to have to put in the effort, because you generally have to call 100 people to be able to get that traction at least. Okay, so let me just come back to my slides because I was somewhere else. So I've asked, should I be in government contracting? Can I be in government contracting? Now the next thing is, I just want to give you, let's say the answers are yes, right? What are the 5 steps I would tell anybody getting started after they do this? Oh, but before I do, let me just share some really exciting news for us. I've been training for 6 years on how to succeed in the federal market. And now we're going to be rolling out a web-based tool, a SaaS product, if you will, software as a service, but it's going to be solving top challenges that small businesses have. Small businesses just getting started, but more importantly, small businesses that are in that 5 to 10 year range, right? And we struggle with getting in the door to meet with federal buyers. We struggle with finding teammates who want to work with you. And then maybe you're struggling with identifying, pursuing, and responding to opportunities that you can win. Well, this tool that we're developing, and we're going to be releasing it in increments here, this is going to be designed to solve those problems, because those are the top problems small businesses have, holding us back from making millions of dollars, repeatable income and revenue year after year. So if you're interested in learning more about that, just go to govconinAbox.com and join the waitlist. That's what it's called, GovCon in a Box. We'll bring you the tools. Okay, so let me wrap up here, and I'm pretty tight on the time, but let me give you 5 steps that I recommend you do to get started if you're getting into government contracting business, right? Once you've done those first 2 steps of should I, can I, is you want to complete your DSBS profile. The reason I say it this way is because you can't complete a DSBS profile, that small business profile, unless you're in SAM, unless you've got an IRS EIN number, unless you've got a bank account. All these other things that have to be done are kind of wrapped up into stand up your company, right? So step 1, stand up your company. Now that you know you can be successful, now stand up your company, and then create some basic marketing assets. And so the first asset is a 6-second capability statement. I have multiple trainings on that. I have newsletter articles that show you the templates. You can find those here on LinkedIn, but you create a single page capability statement that just says, hey, we do this, blah, blah, blah. Here's some of our expertise. It's pretty straightforward to create as long as you don't overthink it, right? You just hit a whiteboard or a blank piece of paper and you can create it following my guidance. Step 3 is to create a 1-page website. You just need a professional email domain and website. And I tell people when you're getting started, even if you've been around a little bit, just have a one pager. And at the top could be a menu that says about us and services and something else, right? But when you hit it, it just comes down on the page. That's a modern website design where you don't even have to go to other pages. It's just sections down on a page. You don't need a ton because you're really just getting started. You have a bigger website once you have a lot more information you can put on that can teach your customers about whatever they're looking to learn. Step 4 is update LinkedIn. You're here on LinkedIn or in YouTube, you're going to be coming over to LinkedIn, but this is where we network, right? I just connected with at least 10 people who reached out to me this morning who are all coming from the DoD innovation space because I'm engaging in that this morning. Well, you'll be able to find your buyers and potential teammates here. So you've done that 1 through 4, and you've got your company all kind of lined up. You don't have to do a lot more. I have a whole separate training on what not to do early on, but don't get caught up in all this extra bureaucratic set of tasks that are out there. As soon as you got the basics of your company up and running, then step 5, go right back to those people from the last slide who said, yeah, I'm happy to talk with you and figure out where we can work together. You don't need anything fancy here. You're trying to just get in the door. And again, I have a ton of training about how to build those relationships, how to know which relationships are actually good for you and not. But you should be able to get traction within the first 30 days of what you're doing if you follow these steps that I talked about. It's a quick way to get up and running. Again, this is a very fast intro to the idea of getting started in government contracting. But here's what I want you to just remember, right? Before you go too far, ask yourself, should I be a government contractor? And those questions I posed early on, and you can get the replay immediately. The second question is, can I do what needs to be done in order to succeed in business, but in the federal market in particular? And then the last question is, will I be successful in government contracting? Will I do the things that need to be done? If you can answer those questions in the affirmative, that yes, you can do this, then you're going to be a success. And I'm excited for your success. Make sure you subscribe to the newsletter so you can track on all the tips we provide on how to succeed in the federal market. If you're not following me on LinkedIn, come over and connect with me on LinkedIn and connect with the others who are in here. This is your community, and we're excited for you.